Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we've got this really intense stack of sources. We're talking surveys on regret, biographies of investors, and we're going to use them to map the gap between financial failure and success. The topic, the mindset gap.
Then that gap is just enormous. And it's rarely about the math. When you really dig into the most common financial regrets people have, they almost always boil down to emotional failures.
Right.
This isn't just, oh, I wish I had $100 more. No, we're talking about the time you can never get back, or, dreams that just died because of avoidance.
Exactly. So our mission today is to pull apart those emotional traps, the ones that keep people playing financial defense, always just trying not to lose, and contrast that with the habits that actually multiply wealth. We want to give you a shortcut.
Let's start with what has to be the loudest regret out there. I should have started investing earlier. It's so common, it almost sounds like a cliche.
But it's not laziness, is it? The sources say it's fear. It's this deep fear of losing money, or maybe the fear of looking dumb, and also this thing they call perfectionist paralysis.
Oh, that's a big one. The idea that I'll start when I have all my ducks in a row, or I'll start when I have a huge lump sum of cash.
Which never happened.
It never happens. And that paralysis is just lethal to your wealth because the one thing you need for compound growth is time. It's all about time in the market, not timing the market.
So the antidote is just start small, start now.
Yes, even $50 a month. The real win isn't the $50, it's breaking that mental block. It's proving to yourself that you are an investor.
Okay, so inaction is the first great regret. What's the second? Because it seems to be the opposite. A massive action taken for all the wrong reasons.
The housing mistake. And this one is so painful because homeownership is treated like, as one source put it, America's #1 religion.
And that makes people ignore the reality of the numbers. We found this story about a couple, Eric and Elena. It was just, wow.
So they bought a $770,000 condo in Toronto. Renting was $2,300 a month, which is fine for them. They budgeted for a mortgage of about $2,600.
Seemed manageable.
Totally manageable. But they completely missed all the phantom costs.
The stuff nobody really talks about.
Yeah.
Taxes, maintenance fees.
Insurance, yeah. All of it pushed their real monthly cost up to $3,500. So even with a combined income of $160,000, they were suddenly living paycheck to paycheck.
And draining their savings by $1,000 a month. The problem wasn't their income. It was that their housing cost hit almost 36% of their gross income.
And Elena's quote was just heartbreaking. She said, "It's embarrassing to think we just made a $770,000 mistake."
So hold on. Is the advice here to just abandon the dream of owning a home? Or is it more about changing how we approach it?
It's about treating it like the complex financial decision it is, not some moral requirement. You have to run the math. And sometimes renting is actually the smarter financial move.
That makes sense. And I see how that mistake leads right into the next big regret, all this debt and speculation. It feels like people get into a hole and then start desperately looking for a quick fix.
Exactly. You see these huge regrets about student loans that just funded a lifestyle or, credit card debt from just mindless spending.
The one that really got me in the sources was people carrying high-interest credit card debt, like 27%, but they keep spending on the card to get the points.
The points! The points that are worth fractions of a penny.
That's insane.
You're paying 27 cents on the dollar to earn back less than 1 cent. It's just a self-defeating hobby. The message is blunt. If you have credit card debt, stop using the cards.
And this feeds right into that get-rich-quick trap. People know they shouldn't, but there's always that word but.
I know I shouldn't try to get rich quick, but... And then whatever comes next is always a get-rich-quick scheme.
So what's the real path?
It's boring. It's consistency. It's automating your savings into low-cost index funds. Now, the sources say if you want to take 5 or 10% of your portfolio for fun, for high-risk stuff like crypto, fine. But that other 90% has to be your foundation.
And speaking of risk, the sources had a really strong warning about the word leverage.
Oh, yeah. Leverage is basically using borrowed money to control a bigger asset. But most people see it as some kind of, secret afterburner fuel.
But that fuel works on the way down, too, right?
It works both ways and it multiplies the volatility. If you're just starting out, you need stability, not multiplied volatility. You have to earn the right to use it.
Okay, let's flip the script. Let's move from defense to offense. The habits of the wealthy aren't about not spending. They're about strategic spending. And habit 1 is a different kind of leverage, buying back time.
This is maybe the single biggest mindset shift. The average person trades their time for money. The wealthy trade their money for time. They know their time's the one resource they can't get more of.
So things like grocery delivery or house cleaning, they feel like luxuries you shouldn't be able to afford. There's this guilt around it.
But they're not luxuries. They're efficiency tools. If your time is worth $50 an hour and you pay someone $20 an hour to do your shopping for 2 hours, you just bought back 2 hours of your $50 time for $30.
You've literally compounded your own productivity.
The rich save hours, not just dollars.
That leads right into the second habit, which is this mental trick of measuring purchases in hours of your life. It's a bit brutal.
It forces total honesty. You stop seeing a $60 dinner as $60. You start seeing it as, what, 2 or 3 hours of your life you spent at work?
That $1,000 phone is a full week of your life, 40 hours.
Exactly. Is that upgrade really worth a full week of your life? It stopped you from chasing those little dopamine hits and connects your money to what's actually meaningful.
So let's go back to debt, but from the other side. There's bad debt that traps you, but the sources talk about rich debt that can buy you freedom.
The distinction is everything. Bad debt is for consumption. A fancy car that loses value the second you drive it off the lot.
Right.
Rich debt is for growth. A loan for a rental property that appreciates and generates income, or for a business. The key is that the asset you're borrowing for has to grow faster than the interest you're paying. That difference is where fortunes are made.
You're using debt as rented speed. I like that.
And another form of that is investing in yourself. Courses, coaches, therapy. It's called the highest return asset class there is.
It looks expensive on the surface.
It does, until you see how it changes your output. And a lot of the time, you're not just buying information, you're buying accountability. You're paying for deadlines that force you to become the person who actually follows through. It's an identity shift.
And the final habit is a big one. Avoiding good deals and chasing value instead.
That feeling of winning because you got 30% off something, that's what keeps people broke. Because a deal is still an expense if you didn't need the item in the first place.
The real cost is your attention.
Exactly. The wealthy measure value by utility. If something improves their life or saves them time, they'll pay full price without a second thought. If it doesn't, it's a waste of money, even if it's 90% off.
Okay, when we talk about this kind of long game thinking, the ultimate case study has to be Warren Buffett.
Right.
His whole life is a blueprint for this stuff.
And it all starts with patience.
Mm-hmm.
He learned that lesson the hard way. His very first stock trade, he was only 11 years old.
Yeah.
He sold way too early for a tiny profit and then just had to watch the stock absolutely skyrocket.
So it had to be painful.
It was a formative trauma. It taught him his core lesson, which he put in that famous quote, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient."
And the power of that patience is
Right.
the numbers are insane. He didn't become a billionaire until he was 50. 99% of his net worth came after that birthday.
You have to be willing to feel like you're moving slowly for decades while the compounding does its magic behind the scenes. His favorite holding period is forever.
His whole strategy is about being anti-herd. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful.
And it's not just about investments. He turns every setback into an asset. You know, he got rejected by Harvard Business School when he was 19.
Which must have felt like the end of the world at the time.
Absolutely. But he later called it a blessing in disguise because it led him to Columbia, where he met his mentor, Benjamin Graham, the author of The Intelligent Investor.
Wow. So the biggest disappointment of his life led to the biggest influence of his life.
And he did the same thing with a personal weakness. He had a crippling fear of public speaking, so at 21, he took a $100 Dale Carnegie course. He still has the diploma framed in his office, says it's one of the most valuable things he's ever done.
That's incredible. And that habit of self-improvement leads to his biggest habit of all, right? The 5-hour rule.
Yeah, the idea that he still spends 5 to 6 hours every day just reading and thinking, that's 80% of his workday.
5 or 6 hours. I mean, who has time for that? He reads 6 newspapers a day, plus all these dense company reports.
It is overwhelming, and that's the point. Knowledge compounds just like money. After 70 years of doing that, he has an information advantage that is just untouchable.
And the core principle he follows is key. Don't read other people's opinions. Get the raw facts, and then think for yourself.
That intellectual discipline is tied directly to his lifestyle. I mean, the man still lives in the same modest house he bought in Omaha in 1958.
Which sends a huge message. It's all about emotional detachment.
Right. Money is a tool, not a mood indicator, and this lets him stay calm when the market is crashing. Which brings us to his definition of affordability, which I think is the biggest takeaway here.
It's not about the price tag.
No. Affordability is measured in peace of mind. You can buy almost anything with debt, but you can only afford what won't steal your sleep at night.
What a journey. We've gone from these deep regrets, the paralysis, the housing mistake, and contrasted that with this slow cooker recipe for wealth built on patience and learning.
And to close that loop on regrets, there were a couple more surprising ones. One was the failure to plan for completely predictable life events like weddings or college. People just think they're a special snowflake and it'll all magically work out.
It won't.
It won't. And then there was this critical relational regret they called the ignorant reassurer partner. This is the person who avoids the finances but just says, oh, it's going to be fine, with no data to back it up.
Which just breeds resentment and powerlessness for the partner who's actually trying to manage everything.
And all these things, they're all rooted in fear. Fear of judgment, fear of loss. The antidote is always the same. You have to build a plan and then take action.
So let's leave you with a final thought from all this. The wealthy seem to have a really different relationship with risk and even envy. They use envy as data like a map showing them where the next level is, and they'd rather waste money on a necessary mistake than waste time through indecision.
So ask yourself this. What controlled risk or intentional investment in yourself are you avoiding right now? A course, a tough conversation, a strategic move, just because it feels uncertain. Because that uncertainty, that's often the exact toll gate between comfort and freedom.